What's up, everybody? It's your boy ShowtimeDr. I'm back with the banner review for 8/15/2018. Morrigan, Claude, Edwin, Jacqueline banner. They're back, baby, so let's get into it. Alright, so just logged in, so we gotta go through all that. So what I'm gonna do, because last time I went to the banner, I'll try it again, but for whatever reason on the banner, they always show like the 4 and 5-star versions. And granted, that is the character you get, but, you know, everyone just wants to see the 6-star version. So, I am instead gonna go to the Codex. We'll start with Morrigan first. I'm actually gonna do later today, I'm gonna do a character in-depth analysis of her. But alright, so Morrigan here. Morrigan is a very rare character, guys. She wasn't on any of the other banners besides her own, and she's back right now. You can't get her from the general pool, at least unless they've changed something since I looked. So, if you want this character, get this character. We'll go over it real quick. So on her one, you know, your typical single target has a 35% chance to cause bleeding for 30% of her attack for 2 turns. You'll see a theme here with this attack here. And you get it up all the way, it eventually turns to 60% chance. Number 2, this is our cone effect. Inflicts damage equal to 120% of attack to a target and 2 adjacent allies. 35% chance to cause bleeding for 30% of attack for 2 turns. Removes 1 buff from the target. This is a really good skill. It's basically a dispel, so if someone has something on that you don't like, or there's a cone effect, like a Able shield, etc., just use her 2 and get rid of it. So really awesome skill right there, very underrated. You level it up, goes to 192 and 60% chance to cause bleeding. Now number 3, her ultimate, one of the best ults in the game right now. Pretty much it hits hard, ignores defense. 60% chance to make the target unable to be revived for 2 turns. Decreases the cooldown of skill 3 by 2 turns if the attack fails to kill the target. You see it's on a 7-turn cooldown. Pretty much it's always... or I should say this. If you don't kill someone with it, it turns into a 5-turn cooldown. So pretty good ability overall. Hits really hard. The chance goes up on the make target unable to be revived, which is very important in the middle right now, although there are starting to be counters to that. And stay tuned for the video when I go into the guild battle to hear more about that. But so you get all the way, you know, you get up to 85% chance to make the target unable to be revived for 3 turns instead of 2. Pretty gnarly, pretty gnarly. And then decrease the turn cooldown by 3, so then in effect it goes to a 4-turn cooldown if it doesn't kill somebody. So, increase fire allies attack by 40, that's really good, especially if you're running like a Cynthia in your PvP party or even your regular party. Now, we're going to get into our passives here. This is where you have to pay attention, because those all look good, but you see it's like, well, what else does she got? This is where I said pay attention to the percentage damages, and especially your other heroes that have percentage attack buffs. Pay attention. So inflicts damage equal to... Demon Sword Bloody Petal, by the way, her passive. Inflicts damage equal to 50% of attack to a bleeding target. Her 1 and her 2 cause bleeding. At the start of the turn. So whenever she has a turn, anyone that's bleeding, they're going to take 50% of her attack damage just straight up. That's pretty gnarly, especially when you revive her with like a Rue revive and she gets back up and her turn's immediate and she has that attack buff. She's going to go ahead and hit him even harder than she normally does because that Rue percentage attack buff is on him. So increase the caster's attack by 10% for 2 turns when attacking a bleeding target. So every time you attack a bleeding target, automatically stacks up to 5 times. You get up to 50%. It's really gnarly. Keeping Morrigan up is a pain in a lot of the Advent dungeons, the 4 stars especially, but once you can, man, and she stacks that up, she just becomes a little Ginsu knife, man. So applies the status Demon Sword, unselected, Demon Sword Bloody Petal to the caster upon killing an enemy, inflict 30% additional damage for 2 turns, so that's a self buff, even though it says applies, which is kind of funny. But pretty much, she's hitting 30% harder whenever she kills somebody, so... And like I say, you see all these percent damage, percent attack, percent attack, percent attack. All her bleeds are percent attack. And then, of course, all her abilities are percent attack. That's a really important theme for her. And then over here, Morrigan's Madness on her ultimate, 60 ability. 50% chance to apply Demon Sword Bloody Petal to the caster for 2 turns when attacking. So you got a chance right away just to get this Demon Sword Bloody Petal right here, which is pretty much inflict damage and then increase your own attack, etc. Oh no, I'm wrong about that. That's passive. Applies the stats Demon Sword Bloody Petal to the caster upon killing an enemy to inflict 30% additional damage. So you might just do 30% additional damage right at the beginning of, or right after attacking, rather. And then revive with 50% HP and become a berserker for 3 turns upon death, once per battle. By the way, if before she dies you get abnormal status immunity, which is a buff that Abel can do with her 3, Rue can do with her 2. I'm sure there's some other characters that can do it. If you get that on a Morrigan before she dies and she's berserking, you can actually control her when she's berserking, which is really strong because guarantees counterattack and multi-strike whenever she's berserking. And decreases damage taken by 25%. So, just overall, just a ridiculously amazing character. She's very meta right now. There's starting to be some counters to her, hard counters for those of you that hate Morrigan. You want to counter her in Arena. Tayo will whoop Morgan's ass. So will Esna, but Esna doesn't whip it quite as hard as Tayo does. But she's still, though, if you get her enough crit damage and stuff, she can one-shot Morgan at the beginning, cause her to immediately go into Berserk. When a character's in Berserk, you know, they lose control of what they do pretty much, so even though it's still AI no matter what. So we'll go to, oh, by the way, recommended skill ups. Her ultimate. Reason I say skill per ultimate, if you're using her in PvP, the percentage chance for unable to be revived goes up. Super important in the meta right now, and decently important in some Advent dungeons. But, and otherwise, you probably want to do skill 1 after, well, no. Actually, yeah, you probably actually want to do skill 2. I mean, it'll hit harder, the percentage chance to bleed goes up, and then you're removing, well, you're still removing 1 buff no matter what, but this right here, even though you're using it a lot, I mean, you know, it's your character, you're float your boat if you really want to do her 1, but I would do her 2 just because it affects 3 people. So it's her only non-single target ability. Alright, so there's a way. There's no way to get into like talents and passives. Oh well, just look for my banner or my Morrigan character review. I'm gonna do one later today. If you guys want to know more about her. So alright, so let's get into Claude. Okay, where they put Claude. I think he's down over here at the bottom. There he is. Alright, so Claude. Claude is a very powerful dark tank for PvP, and when the Christian dungeon comes back, he actually helps you resist stun in there, so he's actually pretty good in there if you get him tanky enough. So what makes Claude good? You know, this right here, Dark Wind, has some synergy. Just usually not going to make or break you in most cases. So Path to Peace is his one. 70% chance to taunt all enemies for a turn, and applies Veil of Phantasm to all allies, excluding the caster for 1 turn if the caster is affected by Dirge, Ghost Girl. Ghost Girl, for those of you who know Saya, that basically means that nothing can hit you except penetration damage. In his case, he gets it from his 3. We'll go into his 3 later, but... So pretty much anytime this guy's going into Ghost, he has a chance to taunt and apply Veil of Phantasm. Veil of Phantasm, for those who don't know, that is a shield effect that instantly causes you to dodge anything, even penetration damage. You just dodge it. It's one charge. Once it's used up, it's gone. So it can be pretty powerful for a lot of transitions where, especially in like the Christian dungeon, where there's you know, big AoE damage going out and maybe a single target damage going out. You get that up, you can mitigate the greater majority of it, assuming that Veil of Phantasm procs. It is a percent chance, guys, so it's not always going to happen whenever Ghost Girl's up. On his 60, changes the ally's lower HP ratio to that of the caster if the caster is affected by Dirge Ghost Girl at the end of the turn. What that means is, say Claude is at 80% and the majority of your team is at like 40%, 30%, etc. Well, when this guy is casted by or has Dirge Ghost Girl, the buff up, which once again he puts on with his 3, at the end of his turn, his allies are going to have 80% of their HP. And their HP, not his HP, so their HP. So pretty much, the way that is, well, we'll get to his ult, I'll show you how it works. Let me go over his 1 real quick. So his 1, it's a 2 target, or actually up to 3 people, 3 enemies. Doesn't hit that hard, but it has a good chance to taunt. Only for a turn, and even, you know, you gotta get all the way to level 6 before you see the 2 turn. But 50% chance to decrease attack by 30% for 2 turns if the target is taunted. So if they're taunted already, you got a chance for that. Now, the issue with this is, he has a lot lower percentage chance taunt on his 1 than most tanks do. A lot of tanks, they can get to like 65 on their 1. Some of them, it's like 55, etc. But the reason for that is he's attacking 3 people. Most tanks, some tanks do attack 3 people. It's a chance. This guy's always attacking 3 people. Cordelia always attacks 3 people. Well, unless she's targeting someone on the edge, or they're spaced out to where she can't hit more than 1. But pretty good ability right there. Definitely, especially if he has multi or counter, it gets pretty crazy. So on his 2, I want you guys to see his eyes. On his 2, Spirit Tome, inflict damage equal to 200% of attack to 1 enemy, 50% chance to put the target to sleep for 2 turns, 35% chance to brand the target for 2 turns. This is really good PvP, and especially in the Advent dungeons on sub-bosses or boss ads. If they're just like rampaging and going crazy with their damage, you got a good chance to put them to sleep and a good chance to brand. Brand, for those who don't know, 30% additional damage from all sources as long as it's up. Sleep, by the way, for those who don't know, I found this out last week. Shout out to Cash Bryant for telling me. If you hit someone that's sleeping, it's an instant crit. I didn't know that until last week. So a lot of times I just leave them sleeping because, you know, I don't want to deal with it. But that's there for you if you need that clutch crit. That's there for you. So good ability. Once you get it up, you know, brand goes to 3 turns. So to sleep if you need it. It's fairly hard for Claude, actually. Not, you know, Claude isn't doing a super ton of damage, but 320 is actually pretty dang hard. So, and then we finally get to his ultimate here, so. Inflicts damage equal to 165% of attack to 3 enemies. I believe that's just chosen at random, because you literally just hit the 3 button. Usually when you're doing this. 50% chance to apply Looming Death to targets for 2 turns if they have any debuffs. Looming Death, it's a debuff where it's up for 2 turns. Your first turn, you're taking at least half of whatever life you got remaining as damage. And your second turn, if it's still on you, you're just dead. Unless it gets dispelled. I believe it goes through most shields. Even like an Able shield, etc. Although, I don't remember for sure, but I'm pretty sure it does. So applies Dirge Ghost Girl to the caster for 2 turns to grant damage immunity. Penetration damage is not included. So pretty much whenever he does his 3, not only is he doing all this crazy stuff, but he's applying Ghost Girl to himself. I don't understand why they don't just call Ghost, because he's not a girl, but whatever. Grant damage immunity, penetration damage not included. So anyone that penetrates, like Christian, Kane, etc., Esna, they can still hit him. If an enemy removes Dirge Ghost Girl, so like a Morrigan 2 or a Dispel somehow, a Rue Dispel, effect from the caster, the enemy falls asleep for 2 turns. So Claude is just a very powerful, and once again, he gets Dirge up, he has a 70% chance to taunt all enemies and cast Veil of Phantasm, which is a shield that absorbs 1 hit, no matter what it is, even penetration damage. Changes an ally's lower HP ratio to that of the caster. This is automatic once you have his 60 at the end of Ghost Girl. So his ultimate is just stupid, ridiculously good. I see lots of people in the Christian dungeons up, they're actually running double Claude because they can just cycle this ult's up for 2 turns, and they cycle back and forth 4 turns, and then 3 turns they just get through with their other cooldowns. And then they go through it. So this character is really strong right now, especially in PvP, especially in guild battle. If you happen to get him, and you're into PvP, definitely get him. PvE, he's actually not a bad tank too, if you get him good stats, right around, you know, try to get him around 4,500, 4,600 armor. 20k-ish health. You can get away with a little less health, and then, you know, get him some counter, get him a little bit of regen. Yeah, he should be fine there, so. But Claude's really good. And let me go over the other heroes. Edwin is one of them. So we will click on Edwin. Mr. Tight Pants himself here. So Edwin. Here's the thing about Edwin. He has this thing called Verdict Signet. We'll just click that real quick, or else most of his stuff isn't going to make sense. Imprints Verdict Signet on 2 enemies for 2 turns at the start of the turn. This is his passive, by the way, once you get him. Inflicts 30% additional damage and activates special effects based on what type of... when attacking a target imprinted with Verdict Signet. What that means is, depending on what your character type is that is getting attacked, it will have different effects, and this is all of them down here. So, on attack characters, it's 100% chance to apply Melancholy for a turn. Melancholy basically blocks all your buffs. Even your buffs are still on, but they have no effects. So shields, damage buffs, etc., all that doesn't matter, as long as Melancholy's on you. On your defensive characters, ignores defense. Pretty strong. On support characters, 50% chance to cast Silence for a turn. Silence in this game makes it so you can't cast your 2 and your 3. You can only do your 1. Support, 50%... sorry, I said that. Hybrid, decrease the caster's cooldowns by 1. So basically, he's decreasing his own cooldowns by 1 if he's attacking a hybrid. And as you can see here, his things... This is on a 3-turn cooldown, and this is on a 6-turn cooldown. So that can start to get pretty strong if there's like a tanky hybrid, like an LE or something like that. So Verdict Signet's pretty powerful. This is another mostly PvP character, by the way. Does have his uses in PvE, but unfortunately in most PvE you're not fighting against tanks. See this ignore defense here. He might actually be good against the second wave in the Christian dungeon. Ignore defense always works on defense units, but you don't see too many defense units out in the world. There are some support units, and like Callie, who we just got done with, is a hybrid, so... You know, he might have uses there, but... So, on his 60, Barrier Signet removes 1 buff from an enemy affected by Verdict Signet at the start of a turn. 70% chance to obtain 1 Barrier Signet when attacking. Consume 3 Barrier Signets, that's his self-buff, self-stacking buff. To nullify damage taken when attacked. Obtains 3 Barrier Signets at the start of the wave. So every time you fight this dude, or he gets to like the beginning of a wave, he's always immune to damage. Because this dude always has nullified damage taken. Even penetration damage from what I've seen. Now, there might be something that could get past that somehow, but from what I've seen, that's pretty much gonna always be up. So be careful when you burn your ultimates and stuff on this guy right off when you're fighting him in PvP. Leadership there, light dark. There's some light dark synergy, so that's a pretty good one for attack plus 20%. On his 1 has a chance to apply Verdict Signet. If you forget what that is, it's over here. Different debuffs depending on what's going on. So that's pretty strong. You get a high enough. He's attacking 2 targets, by the way, on his 1. You get a high enough, you get a higher chance to inflict it. On his 2, inflicts damage equal to 200% of attack to 1 enemy. Increase the caster's attack by 30 for 1 turn, and critical strike chance by 30. So it's simultaneously a buff and a pretty gnarly damage. Gets up to 320%. And his buffs get up to 2 turns once you skilled up all the way. So this is actually deceptively strong right here. Usually what you want to start out with if you're using them. On his 3... penetration damage ult attacks all enemies, 35% chance to decrease recovery amount by 100% for 2 turns. And you're skilled up all the way, it's 100% recovery by 3 turns, and hits for 192. Or excuse me, 60% chance, rather. So this guy's actually kind of a sleeper in the meta right now. I will explain more on that in my later video on Guild Battle, but this guy's actually pretty... He can be very strong, especially since he's a holy character. Holy's actually gotten some pretty good buffs lately with the addition of Christian and Aemon. There was already Saya, Britain. As much as people laughed at him, people are starting to see the value in Britain now, and AoE clearing for Guild Battle. And, you know, there's, like, sleeper characters like Esmeralda. Aristo, very underrated, has anti-revive. So you can run an all-holy team and basically get away with it now in Guild Battle. It's pretty gnarly, even without supports. But more on that another time. So, I believe this is Jackie, right? There she is. The hotness right there. I really wanted Jackie last banner, but I decided against her because I went all in on Morrigan, so maybe I'll get her this banner, we'll see. So Jackie, the thing about Jackie is, real quick explanation is she gets more powerful the more abnormal buffs are on a character, or debuffs rather, are on whoever she's fighting, but we'll get more into that. So on her 1, 6% damage to man, dude. I need to calm down. Alright, let's begin again. Inflict damage equal to 60% of attack to a target and 2 adjacent enemies, so a cone effect. 100% chance to inflict 10% additional damage if the target is afflicted by abnormal status. There are runes, by the way, that in regular PvP, I believe, or it might be boss dungeon, where you get 30% additional damage inflicted on anyone with abnormal status. So it's pretty strong for her. And then right here, you know, you scale it up a bit, it'll get up to 35%, 96%. So she could become a little truck, man, just with her 1. Freaking basically hitting for... You get that 1 rune I'm talking about, that goes to 65%. And 96%, so that's about 161% in a cone. And there's more on that later, that's not all. So we'll get back to that once we get to her passive. On her 2, Endless Sermon, inflicts damage equal to 10% of attack to 3 enemies. 50% chance to put targets to sleep for a turn, 70% chance to put targets to sleep for 2 turns if they have any debuffs. Once again, like I told you earlier, if you attack someone that's sleeping, automatic crit. So if she puts someone to sleep for 2 turns and she goes again, just wreck them. So she's really strong in PvP. Right here, Dividing Slash inflicts damage equal to 165% of attack to 3 enemies, 35% chance to stun them for a turn. Inflicts 8% additional damage for each debuff on the target. So pretty much this right here. And my mouse has like this weird auto deselect thing. Pretty decent chance to stun. More debuffs that are on the target, the more damage it's going to do. It's a cone effect again, so you're hidden with her 1 with the cone effect. Or 2. It's 3 enemies, but I believe it's 1 target and 2 random right here. And, you know, you get more percentage chance the more you level it up. I forgot to go over that earlier. But then on her 3, you skill it up, you get the 264 in a cone. 60% chance to stun. Stun counts as another abnormal status, by the way. 50% additional damage for each debuff on the target. So basically, you want her on a team that's going to stack debuffs, especially abnormal status ones. And we haven't even gotten to the best part of her yet, so... Wind and Dark allies multi-strike. Her with multi-strike's pretty gnarly, by the way. And here's one of the reasons why. 80% chance to remove abnormal status immunity from all enemies at the start of the turn, so... like a Rue or a Abel or anyone that can put up abnormal status, she can just get rid of it. Like, so that's not going to save you majority of the time. All attacks by the caster and allies have a 20% chance to put targets affected by abnormal status to sleep for a turn. I'll read that for you again. All attacks by caster and allies have a 20% chance to put targets affected by abnormal status to sleep for a turn. One reason why multi-strike is good on her. And have a 50% chance to remove all buffs from a target affected by abnormal status. So you see where I'm going with this debuff meta thing. Now here's the thing that really makes her. Inflicts 50% additional damage when attacking a debuff target. Okay, so we've already gone over. Cone effect, 3 effect, primary target, and 2 randoms. Cone effect. This will just give you 50% more damage on anything you do. Now, get this. 100% chance to inflict damage equal to 100% of attack to an enemy who finishes the turn without defending or using skills. So, someone put to sleep, someone stunned, someone charmed, etc. If they can't hit defend or use an ability, this girl's going to hit him for 100%. And anything that you have, you know, abnormal status bonus from the 50%, etc., additional damage on top of that. So it's pretty ridiculous. And 50% chance to force that enemy to reveal weakness for 1 turn. Reveal weakness basically means that anyone that attacks that enemy, as long as that's a auto crit. Auto crit. So this character is also another character. She works a bit slower than Edwin does once you get Edwin built up, but if she gets rolling, dude, she's like a government project or something. It just all of a sudden just gets like completed, done very well. Well, in some cases, ha ha ha. So basically, the debuff queen here. You get debuffs if you run a debuff team. She's pretty ridiculous. So. That's the way Jackie works. Jackie's also very heavy in PvP, but you can get a lot of abnormal statuses on everything that's not a main boss in most dungeons. So she could actually wreck a lot of dungeons. She's actually one of the recommended characters for the Tayo dungeon, which is probably coming back next week. So if you happen to get her and you're newer to the game, you don't have Ruby, you don't have Kali, you don't have anyone else win, that's pretty good. Yeah, work your Jackie up. She'll do you well in PvP, and she'll do you well in that dungeon too. And Tayo's one of the better characters to get in the game right now, so you're gonna want to put that work in. So, but yeah, run her with like a Sid and maybe a Ruby, or you know, if you happen to have Kali, etc., etc. So, or anyone that works debuffs, you know, even like a Surdic, Mina. You know, whatever meta you guys can see for that. Wind Dark, Mina's Dark, so that could be pretty gnarly actually, because Mina's 1 charms. So this character can be really good as well, so. And then also, quick note, the banners got changed a little bit, so now, starting with this banner, the extra reward, which has been a good thing that Marble and Movirum has done, at the end, instead of getting the main banner, the main hero's ticket, you now get a rate up hero selector ticket, which basically means you can choose any of the heroes on the banner and just get them. So if you got a Morrigan, you want another copy of Morrigan, get a Morrigan. You got a Jackie, you really want a Claude, get a Claude. Do whatever you want, so. And then that way you don't have to worry about, since it's a 4-person banner, and well, I don't want a Morrigan, or I don't want this or that. I really want this other character. Well, there it is for you, so. And yeah, so guys, this has been your banner review for the new Morrigan, Claude, Edwin, Jacqueline banner. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm going to be making 2 more videos today. One of them is going to be about guild battle. And that one should be fun, because I'm a little cheesed about that. And the next one will be, my last one will be a Morrigan in-depth character guide, since some of you are going to start getting Morrigan. Teach you the ways of the sexiest hero in the game, in my opinion. And that is going to be it for me. So I am ShowtimeDr on Twitch. You can find me there. You got my YouTube if you're seeing me right now. We also have, check out the title notes. We got a Discord. Come on in. You know, hopefully you're sane and won't hit on my mods. Because that's what happened earlier yesterday. And, you know, come in, share your experiences, ask your questions, help out other people, celebrate, hate, whatever you want to do. You know, just keep it civil, so. Anyways, guys, good luck with your pulls. Good luck with your farming this week. As you can see, some of the other stuff that's going on. If you go over to the special dungeon real quick. I'll show you guys since I'm not going to cover this in any other video. Your boy Sid's back, so I have guides up for Sid, for people who don't have it, for people who are newer to the game. If you're like 2 weeks in, you're probably not going to be able to clear Sid, I'm sorry. But maybe you could work up to it. I got 2 videos up. One of them's the how-to video, one of them's a dungeon review video, which is me reviewing all the elements of the dungeon. So, either way, you can watch those. If you need some help, come by the Discord, ask me questions, come by the Twitch, hell, ask me in the comments. And yeah, that's it for this video. I got 2 more, so peace out. I'll catch you guys later.